Hi, Walking Miracles, Walking Miracles. How are you all doing? I hope you have had a wonderful month. Here we are this month with our Walking Miracle, Travis Johnson. And I'm super excited to have him. But of course, if you're just tuning in, this is your first time watching the show or the interview, however you perceive it. Basically, what we do is we talk to real life people every day who are out here doing this thing called life, living it, enjoying it, and making the best out of what they have and who they are today and trying to get better. So I asked one of my former students to be on the show because I've really been looking forward to this. I really want to interview my students and really hear what they have to say because they are walking miracles. They are so exceptional. They're doing things that I didn't even do when I was their age, and I think I'm pretty great, y'all. And so I really admire him as a young man because as a teacher, for all of you who know, that is my background. That's what I've been doing for the last 4 years of my life. You meet a lot of exceptional children. They all have different talents, all have different gifts. They all have so much potential, but you don't always see them using that potential. And this young man right here, he does so much. You always hear his name on the announcements. At Crestwood High School for doing something, winning some type of award. He served as the president of his class for his freshman and his sophomore year. So I had the pleasure of being the advisor for both of those. And so I've seen him grow. I've seen some of the things that he has done. He's always so excited and willing to help and volunteer, which is what makes him, what sets him aside from the rest of his peers, because he's one of the first ones that always steps up. He does the announcement. He's just got back from a trip, and I'm pretty sure you won some type of award while you was there, ain't it?
Well, I served as a state president, so I got to walk on stage with 12,000 other members, and so that was pretty exciting.
Well, good. So he served as a president of that organization as well. The state president, excuse me, because that's a whole different level than just being the school president. He was the state president. So as you can see, he's really exceptional. And I definitely admire him. Even, you know, me being older than he is, to see somebody as young as him doing amazing things. And I always tell him, you know, I'm about to be rich, y'all. So y'all just stay tuned. But I always tell him that I'm going to invest in his campaign. Because he's really heavy in politics. Of course, I was his history teacher. And so I'm going to tell y'all right now, he definitely knows way more than me about politics. Because, of course, we have different loves of history. And him and Jacob, they would get arguing all the time in class about politics, but it was all in love because they definitely had different views. And so sometimes we would just sit there and hear them hash it out. And, of course, you know, it was all respectful, and that's one of the things that I really admire about Travis. He always keeps it professional. He always keeps it respectful. Even when he was getting on my nerves a little bit, you know, he kept it to a minimum. You know, he never really reached that peak like some of his other classmates did, but you know, they definitely got on my nerves just a little bit in their class. Just a little bit. I think they like getting on my nerves.
Yeah, I think we were her favorite class. It was only, what, 13 of us?
It was a really small class, so we kind of were like a tight-knit little family, and so they love to get on my nerves, and sometimes I just have to tell them, okay, that's enough. I don't have enough of y'all today. So I really love them. And so what I wanted to do today with Travis is that a lot of times we don't take the time to listen to our youth. We don't take the time to really ask them, you know, what's on their minds. And when you see a young person achieving at such high levels, I mean, you have to wonder, well, what's the difference between him and some of his other peers? Of course, I've met his family, and they're a really great, close-knit type of family. They have conversations. They talk to him constantly. You know, they really get his point of view on things, which is why he's such a great speaker, and he's so exceptional because his family takes the time to listen to him, to groom him, to be the young man. They're very supportive of him, and so I just want to ask him a couple of questions because just coming from my background, these young people have so much potential, and I can actually see the potential. And one of my greatest frustrations as a teacher was to actually look out at my class, and I can clearly see the potential in all of my students, but I know they're not living up to it. And some of them will, you know, in a couple of years, it'll hit them over the head. They'll do great things. And then some of them, if they don't have anybody else to cultivate it, they may never truly live up to their full potential. I mean, that's so many of us when you really think about it. All of us have potential, but how many of us waste that potential, you know, working for somebody else when we have the capabilities of owning our own businesses, or we have creative ideas, or we have the ability to run for positions and really control the things that are happening in our lives as well as our community lives. You know, we don't take that time. And so when you see Travis and he has these really big dreams, you know, I really do hope that he sticks with everything, because we need people at higher levels, people who are like us, who think like us, everyday people, not people who, you know, come from a wealthy family, but people just average, you know, families, everyday families. And so, Travis, I wanted to ask you, while I'm sitting here bragging on y'all, sitting here bragging on you for 5 minutes, but while I'm bragging on you, I want to know what motivates you.
Okay.
What motivates you?
So basically, my motivation was in 2008. And in 2008, I remember President Obama being elected as president. And so I remember me, my mom, and my dad all just sitting there and just watching him. They announced him as the winner. And we all were just like, wow, this is really happening. And as we sat there, my parents were like, and just like how he's doing that, you can do that too. And so from that moment on, I told myself, I can be that next Obama. I can be anything that I truly set my mind to be.
And so that's what really kind of started you on the path of, you know, politics
Right.
and really wanting to be. And so how old were you in 2008?
Well, it's 10 years, maybe like 7.
So he was 7, y'all, because how old are you now?
I'm 16.
You're
so
16
it
now.
was November of 2008, so maybe 7 or 6. Yeah.
So you were 6 or 7 years old, and at that time, and so that's really prolific, because a lot of us, we don't think about it that way. You know, we love our children, but we don't speak into our children. So we love them. We know they can be anything they want to be, but we don't speak into to them. We don't sit with them and say, hey, you know, you see this person, you can be that person. Hey, you see them, you have so much potential. Actually, you're more talented than this person. They just, you know, took their talent and they, you know, cultivated and they did something with it. And that's all that you have to do. So we don't take the time to speak into our children. So just a simple family gathering, watching, you know, Obama being sworn in and them telling you that you could do that too, set you on a path that really, you know, sets you aside for some of your classmates. So that's what motivates you. And so, of course, with every motivation, you know, you have hard days, you have hard times where you want to give up. And of course, I was your teacher, y'all, Travis. Cause this one of my little babies. He stressed out so much about 2 points. He come up to that desk and get on my nerves. Oh, Miss Thomas, I need to make a 100. Can you give me 2 points? Can you do this? I'm just like, Travis, you don't get away from me. You got a 98 in the class. Can you go sit down? So he does stress a lot. So I know there's really times. Then of course, even after he left my class, he would come back and talk to me about other classes that he was having trouble in. And so, what keeps you going? What keeps you pushing forward, even when you feel like you're having a hard time?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, well, I'll start by saying this. The class that we're talking about was physics. So I had physics this semester.
Yeah.
I had physics and pre-calculus at the same time. And pre-cal was pretty easy. Not necessarily easy, but I could manage it. But physics, I'm not a science person, and so that was pretty hard. And so I'd come to Miss Thomas like, oh my gosh, Miss Thomas, I can't do this. I have an 89. But basically what motivated me was the fact that I keep telling myself, I can do this. I will do this. I kept saying, no matter how difficult this challenge is, I know that I can succeed. And I think ultimately that's something a lot of young people need to know. Like sometimes in life, you're going to be faced with this hard challenge. You're going to think that you can't get over it. But I promise you, if you just push yourself, invest in whatever you're doing, you'll succeed. And like as Ms. Thomas said, I'm a teenager. I'm not perfect. And I've had a lot of hardships. Like sometimes I just felt like giving up. So this was last year in FBLA in Anaheim. We had our public speaking contest, our finals. And so we get to California, and I think I'm about to do really good. And I go in the room with the judges, and I think I did really good. I think I'm going to make it to the final round. So then the next day, I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning because that's when they post the 15 people who advance to the finals. And I look on that website, and I see the state, South Carolina, on it. And I look beside the name, and my name wasn't right there. And to say I felt devastated would be an understatement. Like, I felt absolutely miserable. I felt like it was the end of the world. But shortly after that, I realized, I was a freshman competing with 150 other students in a national event. You can't allow one failure to define your entire life. And so what I realized after that was you can't let life be defined by how big of a failure you make, but let it be defined by how big of a comeback you make. And so after that, I was like, it's okay. I'm just going to keep practicing and better myself at that.
Absolutely. And you did just that. Because because I know just throughout the year, with you serving as sophomore president, because you'll be your upcoming junior, a rising junior. So I know that you've spoken for the superintendent. Y'all, you've had dinners, you've had different things that, that the principal came and asked you to speak at. And they always brag on you about how wonderful you are, how good of a speaker you are. And so one of the things that, you know, you did was you went back and you got out of it. A lot of people would have quit. A lot of people would have said, well, you know, I'm not going to be a speaker no more. You know, I don't care. I'm just going to be done with it. But you continued to practice. And so with all of the stress and like you said with failures, and I want to say this to you too because I know you.
Yeah.
You know, failing is inevitable. It's going to happen. And so as long as you keep that attitude, because there's going to be failures that are going to be bigger than your name not being on that list.
Right, yeah.
And really just staying focused and making sure that you understand that Einstein, he failed hundreds of times before he finally got to that place where he wanted to be. If he had quit or gave up that first time he failed, we wouldn't even know his name today. And most of the people who are important, whose names we do know, they failed hundreds of times. Some of them maybe even thousands, depending on what they were doing. And that's why we still know their name today. Because like you said, it's about the comeback. It's about getting up. It's about how many times you're willing to try. Because honestly, you're never really a failure if you get back up. So many of us, we stay down there, and that's what really makes you a failure. That's what really cultivates that whole ideal of, oh, I can't do this, I'm a failure, that you pass down for generations to come because you failed. But it's inevitable. It happens to everybody, but it's really those failures that build character. Those are the times where you really see what you're made of. Those are the times where you really have to put your faith in place and say, okay, I did fail. I did not do as well. I don't feel good about it. So let's not get that twisted now. You're not going to feel good about it, but just being able to say, okay, but I'm still get back up because I know what I can do. I know what I'm capable of. I know what, you know, God has said concerning me. And I can say that now. Yeah. I know what God has said concerning me, y'all. When I was a teacher, I couldn't talk about the Lord, but I can talk about it. So I know what God has said concerning me, and I'm going to keep pushing forward no matter what. And so, you know, you found your motivation. You found what you were focused on, what you were passionate about. You learned to really keep pushing forward. And so what message would you give your peers? Because, of course, we know you go to Crestwood. I taught at Crestwood. You interact with your peers all the time, and all of them are not like you. Now, don't get me wrong, they all have your same potential. All of y'all have potential, but you actually put yours in place. So what would be something that you could say to your peers if you had to give them just one piece of advice?
Just one?
Or give them 5. Give them, right. they need 5. Okay, give them a whole page of advice.
This might be just more than one. So my first one would be know your worth. Like, when you walk around with confidence.
That's for older people too, by the way. Yeah. Know your worth, y'all, because they need it too.
Don't confuse confidence with arrogance. But when I say confidence, like, know that you're important. Know that you can do what you set your mind out to do. When you walk into the class, when you walk around the halls, when you walk in grocery stores, anywhere, walk with your head up. Know that you're important. Like, don't go with your head down, because then that devalues yourself. And then people were like, oh, look at them. They must not feel important. But if you walk around with your head held high, no matter what you're going through, then people are like, oh, they're pretty confident. Another thing that I'd say is just learn to respect your elders. Like, you can really learn a lot from your teachers and stuff. And they can become more than a teacher. Like, they can become very close to you. And you can learn a lot of wisdom from them. And another thing is, keep your head focused, because I know with us being teenagers, there are so many distractions, parties, all these kinds of things. But it's okay to be called a lame sometime. Like, there's a quote that me, my mom, and I love to say. It's, show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
Absolutely.
And when we say that, like, it's okay to have a lot of friends, because Ms. Thomas can tell you, I'm a people person.
Oh, yes, he is.
I love talking to people. I love having friends. But it's a key difference to know when to distance yourself from those friends. Like, when you're, for example, when you know you have Ms. Thomas's exam coming up and you're confronted with the choice of going out to a party or studying, learn to tell your friends, no, I have to study. But most importantly, those friends, if they're truly your good friends, they'll tell you, don't go to this party, but come and study.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's advice that older people can say. Know your worth. Know your worth. Walk with your head hung high. Well, not hung high. You can't really hang your head high, but whatever. So walk with your head held high. And that's really, really so important. And it is so prolific. And yes, you do like to talk. He does like to talk, y'all. But that's a part of his gift. That's a part of who he is. And as a teacher, you learn to accept that, you know, those different little pieces about your students. But that was a lot of great advice, that sometimes you have to set yourself aside. I mean, like I said, that's for older people too. Set yourself aside. If you show me your friends, I can show you your future. And so many of us that we don't understand that. You know, we have friends who constantly speak negativity in our lives. We have friends who constantly pull us down, who don't want to see us do well, because like you said, if you don't want to go to the party, oh, they start calling you a lame and all of this stuff and trying to make you feel bad. Those people really aren't your friends, because if they were, they would want to see you be successful. They would want to see you do amazing things. But just in general with people, another thing that I would add to that, when you're talking about your friends and, you know, really staying home and, you know, accepting the responsibility. But when you do make a mistake, when you do something wrong, one of the things that I've noticed about our youth, matter of fact, one of the things I noticed about people, excuse me, I'm going to stop saying the youth because this applies to everybody, is that we have a hard time accepting responsibility for the things that we have done or the mistakes that we have made. And really, it's okay to make a mistake. And I think that people fail to realize when you don't accept it, when you don't realize that you need to make a change, when you don't realize that sometimes it's okay to say, hey, I messed up, is that you're not able to grow. You first have to accept the mistake. You have to accept, hey, man, dang, I was real disrespectful. You know, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. You know, whether I'm an adult or a child or whoever, I shouldn't have done that. And accepting it and being willing to right the wrong, or being willing to say that you were wrong, because that's where growth starts, when you're able to accept that responsibility. And that's one of the things that I love about Travis, and then I worry about Travis at the same time, because he has no problem accepting the responsibility of his mistakes or things that he's done wrong. Travis, can I tell the story about Miss Mullinet's class?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, I can tell the story. You sure? You know what story I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You want me? Can I tell the story?
Let's tell a filtered version.
A filtered version. Let me see how I can filter the version of this story. Okay, so we'll just say Travis made a mistake. In one of his classes, he made a mistake. Him and his classmates, because we all fall victim to peer pressure sometimes, and he made a mistake, and oh, she found out. And so I messed with Travis for days about this. She really wasn't worried about it, because she had already known, or whatever, they're kids. And, you know, sometimes just like, you know what, I don't even have time for y'all today, whatever. And so he made a mistake, but he accepted the responsibility. He was so worried about it. He was like, well, I'm just going to go. I already done talked to her. I already done told her. I already done said all of this stuff. And I already done all of this. But he accepted responsibility for it. And sometimes I definitely have to tell him, even just with his grades, with the different things that he's doing, that it's okay. Like, calm down. You know, you don't want to get too stressed out, because that's unhealthy. And so, you know, I really appreciate that about him, is that he's willing to accept the responsibility even when he makes a mistake. Because like I said, he's a great kid, but he's a human nonetheless. And so I really admire that about him. And so even with you having a message for your peers, so the adults, you being a successful young man, you know, your parents, of course, you know, we all want to know what's the magic sauce. Of course, there is no magic sauce. But what would be some advice that you would give parents today? Because, you know, parents are always looking, because parents are not perfect. Adults are not perfect. I wasn't perfect as a teacher. And sometimes you're just looking like, okay, well, what can I do for my child? How can I be better? What can I do better as a parent, as a teacher, as a coach, as a mentor, to really reach the students of this time? What could I really do? So what advice would you give to the ones of us who are a little older, who are trying to help your peers be better?
Oh, wow. That's a lot. Okay, so the first thing would be for parents. Ever since I was young, my parents would always tell me, like, you can do whatever you want to do. You can be whatever you want to be. And things like that are really important in a child's life, because when you grow up, you still remember that my parents, they trust me. They believe that I can do great things. And a part of me, something that I don't want to do, I don't want to let them down. And so when you as parents push your child up, it gives them that commitment to you, because we don't want to let you down, because we know that you're putting your trust in us. And also be supportive of your children. Like, for instance, this past 1 month ago, I went to New Orleans. I won the Billy Michael Student Leadership Award, and it's only one per state. And they paid for my mom and I to go, all expenses paid for. And my dad's like, well, I'm coming too. I'm not just going to let y'all two go. And with everything I've done, they've always supported me, whether being there, encouraging me, texts, phone calls. They're always my biggest fans. And I think that if you're your child's biggest fan, they'll appreciate it. It'll make them want to work harder. And then another thing is, learn to talk with us. A lot of times, I think a big problem is miscommunication between students and adults. But I feel like if we all just sit down, let our egos aside, we'll be able to learn a lot from each other. You know, like, I can learn from you and you can learn from me.
Absolutely.
And that'll bridge that age gap. Because at the end of the day, you'll find out, like, we might have some of the same interests. Like, talk about a television show you like to watch, and sometimes that'll help like bridge the gap between students and adults. I feel like that's been really helpful.
Well, good. See, you had some advice. And one of the things that really stood out to me, because I know me and my mom, we're really close, and we've had our differences. Lord knows we've had our differences, but one of the things that you said is be your children's biggest fan. One of the things that my mom always tells me all the time, even today as an adult, she'll text me sometime and say, you know, I'm your biggest fan, right? And that right there, like you said, it motivates me so much. And it's the reason why I'm always doing, for the ones of you who know me personally, you know I'm always doing something different. I'm always trying something. I'm always trying to be better. I'm always trying to find my niche, that's going to take my life as well as my family's life to the next level. Because like you said, I don't want to let my family down. And not only do I not want to let them down, but I want to elevate them to the next level, because I've seen how hard my mom worked. I know she's my biggest fan. And since she's my biggest fan, I got to give her something to cheer for. I got to give her something to root for. And so I'm constantly doing something different. And the fact that she's so supportive, like things that she might not necessarily even agree with what I'm doing, but because I believe in it, because I'm passionate about it, she'll say, you know what? Okay, I don't really like that you're doing this, but let me tell you something. If something happened, you can always come home. If you need to take a break from this, you can come here. Or if you need to do this, or if I have a little bit of this, I'll give this to you. She's always supporting me, always telling me that she's my biggest fan. And even though I know it, every now and then she'll still reiterate to me who she is and the fact that she loves me. I mean, her and my sister, well, I'm a queen now because I got my own house, so I'm a queen. But she always used to tell us that we're princesses and that she's the queen and that we should be treated as such. And that was something that she instilled in me. And although I'm not perfect, the one thing that I hold on to is that, you know, I know my worth, and the older I get, I learn more and more how to display who I am and that worth that she instilled in me, because I don't want her to be disappointed in me. I want her to be proud. I know that really there's nothing that I could do to make her ashamed of me, but at the same time, with her being my biggest fan, like I just said, I got to give her something to cheer for. And so that's so important. You know, as adults, when you're talking to young people, whether they're big or small, is really bridging that gap, really having a conversation. One of the things that I loved about my students and I love most about being a teacher is being able to have a conversation with them, because you can learn so much from them. I mean, everything that you learn is not always good. Some of the things they could have kept to themselves. However, really, you can learn so much. You can learn who they are. And so many of my students, I cannot wait to see what they do, because I already know that they're going to be amazing. And then there's some of them, I can't wait to see what they're going to do, because I feel like they're going to surprise me. They might have been little knuckleheads and got on my nerves in class, but I saw the potential. And I'm like, oh, if they ever just get it, if they ever recognize who they were and the potential that they have, they're going to be something great. And they may. Because I don't know who they are. I don't have the ability to say, yeah, you're a knucklehead today, but 2 years from now, something may happen and completely change your whole life. And so that's one of I love doing it as a teacher, having relationships and talking to them and getting to know them. That's how I got to know this young man. Why, you know, I'm able to sit here today and even do this interview with him. His parents were okay with it because of those relationships that I built in a classroom. So when he starts running this country, you know, I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be like, y'all, listen, I got the hookup, you know. I know the president of the United States. You know, matter of fact, let me call him, y'all. So I'm speaking that into existence. And so
do you mind if I add one more thing?
Absolutely. Right. Say something else.
This just came to my attention. Another thing that is really important for parents to do is sit down and talk with your kids. Like, it doesn't have to be an everyday thing, but maybe once a week, just sit down, see how they're feeling. Because a lot of times as teenagers don't know how to express themselves. And they feel like, oh, our parents are so much older than us. They don't understand what's going on. But they've been in our shoes once. All these problems we have, they've probably experienced the same ones. They may not have a problem with Snapchat being down or something, but they can probably relate to some of the things we're going through. And like for me, I consider myself a pretty strong person, but even the strongest of people need someone to talk to sometimes.
Absolutely.
And so I remember this was back in March, and I was just going through a hard time. I had my FBLA campaign coming up. I had so many different tests coming up, and I just felt so overwhelmed and stressed. I felt like the entire world was coming down against me. But then just one simple talk with my mom, we were sitting in the parking lot of her job, and we just started talking, and that just made me realize, like, I got this. Like, just talking with her and her understanding what I was going through, it made me really feel important, because it's good having someone to talk to, like a confidant. And that's what I consider my mom and dad. It's good being able to talk to them and just like venting to them, laying out all of your problems and having someone to hear you and just be your motivator. I think that's really important. Just sit down with your kids, talk to them, and if you see them acting strange, grab them. Don't just see them doing it and don't talk to them about
they're
it.
just a teenager. They're
Right.
just crazy.
Yeah, see, that's the wrong attitude. We should talk to them, and because maybe that 5-minute conversation you can have with them can really change their day and change
maybe
their
even
life.
save
honestly.
their life.
Yeah.
Because I mean, let's be honest here. What you said is so important. There are, you know, now when we talk about, you know, death, let's just put it out there. There are so many young people who are dying from just ridiculous things, you know, taking their own lives, their lives being taken by classmates and peers and different things, over crazy reasons. And one of the things, as you said, is that we don't talk to them. We see them acting weird and we just go, oh, they're a teenager. But sometimes, no, it's not that they just a teenager. They going through real life stuff because, you know, the world is changing. And although there's nothing new under the sun and we've experienced things the same as them, they're experiencing some of those things at earlier ages because of access to social media and the internet. So some of the things that you might not experience until you were 18, their kids as young as 9 years old experiencing those things that you experienced at 18 at 9 years old. And so having those conversations, just taking the time to say, hey, what's up? What's going on with you? Even like you said, you know, your parents being your confidant. I don't think that we realize a lot of times you'll say, you know, you hear parents say, well, my kids won't talk to me. And it's because you didn't start the conversation early enough. And it's never too late.
And we're
so
not
don't
going to initiate the conversation.
Absolutely. No, they don't know how to express themselves. And part of the reason them not knowing how to express themselves is because we don't know how to express ourselves. And one of the things that I've had to learn even in my adult life is just to say, hey, you know what? This is how I feel, and I don't really care how y'all feel about it. Like, this is how I feel, and I know I'm not sucking it up today. No, I'm not going to be quiet about it. No, I'm not going to, you know, stop talking about it. Because right now, I need to get this out. And that's okay, but we don't teach our kids that. We teach them to bottle everything up. Oh, if they're acting strange. And it's like, oh, they're just acting strange. Just let them go in their room. No, that's the worst place to be.
That's awful.
When something going on with you, to be isolated by yourself. Because that's when the enemy start working your whole mind. Now you back there like, oh, I don't know what to do. My whole life crashing down on my head. Maybe I don't even need to be here anymore. Everybody hates me. My parents don't even want to talk to me, this person. So really, you know, just having that conversation and opening up to them, just saying, hey, what's going on with you? Talk to me. And then when they talk to you, like I said, some of my students, they told me some things I didn't want to hear. Okay? And sometimes I was tempted to, like, lash out and, like, scold them immediately. But then sometimes I had to just sit there and go, okay. So, well, what did you learn from that? Like, why did you do that? And just having that conversation with them. And some of them have disclosed things to me that they've never disclosed to anybody else. And I'm sitting here like, I don't know what to do with this information. But
do I tell it?
Do I tell it? Do I keep it? If I keep it, am I going to jail? Am I going to lose? Like, what's going to happen? And so just having that conversation and learning that you can kind of scold them in a sense, but letting them know, okay, so you did this. These are the consequences, but we're already here now, so let's figure this thing out together and not making them feel like they're less of a person or just this stupid child who made a mistake, because let's be honest, we all have. And so having those conversations change lives. It also saves lives in this day and time, because you really just never know what's going to happen, because like I feel like now you have just as many young people sometimes, you know, passing away or taking their own lives as you do. Actually, I think, you know, the suicide rates actually are higher amongst younger people, you know, in their early 20s and mid 20s and even below now. You're seeing kids as young as elementary school taking their lives. And a lot of people say, well, I don't know why, you know, what would an elementary school kid have to take his life for? But when you're not having those conversations and they're young and they don't know, they're inexperienced, they don't know how to deal with those emotions, they're experiencing so much at a younger age, you just don't know. So having those conversations, that's really important for parents. So I'm glad that you definitely added it, and I appreciate that. And so that's really why I wanted to interview today. I feel like you have, of course, you have a lot ahead of you because you're just the upcoming junior. You still have 2 whole years of high school. And yes, I'm going to be there at the graduation, so y'all can stop asking me that. I'm going to be there, you know, no matter where I am, just a phone call away, always. And so I appreciate y'all. I appreciate your whole class. I'm glad I got to teach y'all
No.
No, I'm just I didn't punch none of y'all, or I don't think I yelled at y'all.
Maybe once.
Maybe once. So it taught me not to yell. After y'all came from Miss Litt's class that day, because we used to combine we used to combine our class. They was acting real crazy. I had to let them know, okay, don't let curly hair fool y'all because y'all about to get on my nerves. So but I really enjoyed them teaching them, all of my students actually, even the ones that have tested my patient. I loved my students, and really, y'all don't know this, but y'all are one of the reasons why I do what I do as well. Not just my family, because I want to be an example. I want to show them that we can have so much more, and that education is important. That, you know, taking the time and pouring back and investing in yourself, it is important. It's so important, because I have so many students like, well, why I got to be here? You know, why I got to do this and why I got to do that? And I just want them to see that there's so much out there, and you can do it all legally. It doesn't have to be illegal. You don't have to do something illegally to be a millionaire. There's so many things out here that you can do if you just open your mind to it and you just stay focused and you stop worrying about what everybody else is doing. Like you said, it's okay sometimes to be called the lame, especially when you want more for yourself, you want more for your family. And so I do some of the things that I do because I want to show the kids that I've taught, the kids that are coming up, that you can do whatever you want to do, that you can be as rich as you want to be, that you can help your community. If you see your mama struggling, you can help her. You can do whatever. You just have to be willing to pay that price. And sometimes that price is as simple as, oh, I don't like this class, but I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do my best. That a F is not good enough. Well, not an F, you know you fail, but a D is not good enough, because some of my students, they really don't care. A D is okay. As long as they got a D and they pass the class, it is okay. But they don't realize the effects of that until they get to their senior year. And I've had kids come tell me,
my GPA.
Yeah, because now they want to go to college and play football or basketball or go to a good college, because now they're older and they're thinking about their future. And they're like, oh, I got to get my GPA. But I'm just like, boo, I'm so sorry. You know, you might have to do a bridge program or something, because I like to be honest with them too. Like, your GPA is a 1.9. Like, it's your senior year. It's probably not going to come up as high as you think, you know, because all those F's are still factoring into that GPA. So we're going to have to figure out a different way. So starting those conversations early, instilling those things in your children early, are so important. I wanted Travis to come on here because when we talk about walking miracles, when we talk about, you know, living this thing called life and doing the very best that you can, you know, he's one of the people that comes to mind for me, because he's always so positive. I rarely ever remember Travis having a bad day. And even if I tried to have a bad day, they would come in there like, oh,
say, Miss, you got to get up.
You said that it ain't no such thing as a bad day. They just repeat everything I done said to them back to me, so now I can't have a bad day. And it would work, because now I got to be a good example, and I got to pep up and jump around the classroom and yell and scream and act crazy. And so I really appreciate it, and I thank you. I thank you for, you know, doing this interview. I definitely enjoyed it, and I feel like we got so much more to talk about, but we ain't gonna talk no more because we'll be on here for a whole hour talking. And so I really appreciate you for doing it. I thank you. I admire what you're doing. You keep doing it. And I am going to invest into your campaign. We'll let you know how much. You know, maybe one day I can just give you the check and let you write it and not even worry about it, because that's how rich I'm gonna be. But I thank y'all for watching Walking Miracles. Y'all continue to walk this thing out. Remember, mistakes and failures, they're necessary to build that character that you're going to need to take it to those next levels in your life. And continue to walk this thing out, being the best that you can be. And of course, every 15th of the month, make sure you tune in for our next Walking Miracle to see the interviews. And I thank y'all so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Go ahead.
Do you mind if I say something really
Absolutely.
short?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
All right, so this has been like on my mind a lot. So I just want to say these little final closing remarks to teenagers and young people. So a month ago, I spoke at a 5th grade graduation, and I told them failure isn't an option, and that's something we say a lot at Crestwood. But don't just say these things, mean them. And so I challenged them. I said, when you leave here, go home and write down, not type it, but actually write it and post it on your wall in your room. Write down a goal for yourself, because when you write down that goal, when you wake up every morning, you look at that and you tell yourself, this is why I'm pushing so hard. This is why I'm going to go in that hardest class that I'm taking. And I'm going to pay attention. And I may not like the class. I may not like the teacher. But I have an end goal that I'm reaching for. And I think when you do that, you'll be successful. Because a lot of times students just go to school and they're like, why am I here? I'm here for like 8 hours a day.
Right,
the lunch is awful. I don't like my teachers. But when you have that goal, when you have that motivation that you're ultimately reaching for, you'll be like, okay, let's get these 8 hours out of the way. Like, I may not want to be here, but I want to be successful later in life. At the age of 60, I want to be vacationing on the coast of Aruba or somewhere.
Yes.
And so you set those high goals for yourself and always remember that you can reach it. All you have to do is work hard, put your mind to it, and I can tell you for a fact that you'll be able to accomplish anything you set your mind to.
Absolutely. So we're going to get the same challenge to everybody else. So we challenge you to write down your goal, write it down, put it on your wall so that you can look at it every morning. So when those hard times come throughout your day, when those hard times come in your life, you know exactly what you're working for. You know exactly what you're going, where you're going. I was listening to Sarah Jakes Roberts one time, and one of the things that she said is when you begin to look at the finish line. Of course, she put it more eloquently than I am about to put it right now. But she said when you look at the finish line, when you look at where you're going, it changes your view of everything else in the middle because you know what the finish line is. You know where you're going. So when things begin to happen in the middle, you don't necessarily view them the same. You don't view them as failures. You don't view them as setbacks. You don't view those hard times as, oh, this is a hard time, because you know exactly where you're going. So that finish line, giving yourself that this is my finish line, this is what I want to be able to do, changes everything that you're doing now. It changes your perception, and perception is so big. It changes your feelings about it. It changes, you know, the way that you know, counteract those different things. You know, your attitude changes because you know that this is just a moment, you know, a moment in time of me getting to my goal. And so we both challenge you today. I'm putting a challenge out to every single walking miracle, and that's all of you, because all of you are walking miracles in your own regard, to put that goal on your wall and to strive towards it. And make sure that even when you're experiencing those hard times, you keep your eye on the prize, you keep your eye on the finish line. And so I'm going to challenge myself to do the same thing. Go ahead. See, this is why he's about to be a politician.
I'm a talk.
Go ahead.
Another one thing. So a lot of us have younger brothers and sisters. Unfortunately, I was the baby. Unfortunately, I wanted a little brother or sister. Never got one, but I have a niece. And for those of us who have that younger person in our life, use that person as your motivation. For me, like I just said, I have a niece. She'll be 11 months on the 23rd. And when I wake up and I see her, I'm like, I want to be successful for her. I want to be a role model for her. I want her to be able to say, that's my uncle. I can follow in his footsteps. And for those of you out there, you may have a little cousin, brother, sister. Do it for them. Do it for them. Like, allow them to have a role model in their life. Allow them to say, that's my cousin, that's my brother, that's my sister. And then they'll be proud of you, and you'll be proud of yourself for making them proud of you.
Absolutely. So you heard it best from Travis Johnson, y'all. He's going to be running for president 1 year. He has a long time to go, but he's going to be running. So I want y'all to remember this, because we're going to replay this when he's running, just showing, you know, his whole journey from then, you know, from now to then. And so thank y'all so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Travis.
And this is
I
awesome.
definitely appreciate it.
When she told me, I was like, oh, of course, you know I love.
And I was like, and I texted him, I said, Travis, don't forget about it. He said, oh, you know I ain't gonna forget. I said, well, all right, then.
I already had it on my schedule.
Yes. He got a schedule, y'all. Some of y'all need to get a schedule. Y'all, he younger than y'all. Y'all better get y'all a schedule. All right, y'all have a good day, a good week, and continue to walk this thing out.
Do it again if they did it before.